Hello and welcome. BTX is excited to be working closely with Atlona on the HDVS and CLSO solutions for classrooms and boardrooms, and today this will be the focus of our webinar. I'm Kim Robbins, Senior Marketing Manager at BTX, and I'll be your host throughout this session. Joining me today from Atlona is Ken Eagle, who is the Director of Training and Technical Sales. Ken is responsible for setting the global direction in product and sales training for Atlona, as well as managing the day-to-day responsibilities of application engineering and assisting with other sales opportunities. He has experience on both the pro and the resi side of things, and in both manufacturing and integration. So it goes without saying that he has a breadth of experience to answer most questions. When you work with BTX, you work with a team of people whose mission it is to take you beyond distribution and be your partner of choice. In addition to supplying many thousands of the finest interface, integration, and system products, we also engineer our own unique and patented solutions. We have deep technical expertise on all of the solutions that we provide, and our applications engineers, inside and outside sales teams are readily available to help you specify, purchase, and then support your project requirements. Our full product line card offers thousands of products to make implementation of your projects run smoothly. Among the many key integration building blocks that we provide are custom cable assemblies, custom plates and panels, video extenders, signal distribution, and cable management. So please use the question area on your toolbar, and we'll make this as interactive as possible. And so now, onto the main attraction. Ken, I've just made you presenter.
Wonderful. Let me just go ahead on here and you should hopefully see my screen there now.
I do.
There we go. Good. All right. Well, great. Thank you, Kim, so much. And thanks for inviting me and Atlona to be on the webinar today. We love BTX. We love working with you guys and appreciate the opportunity to talk with your audience a little bit today. So I'm Ken Eagle, and I want to go ahead and get started here. So let's just jump right into it. So today's focus is around the classroom and the conference room solutions through Atlona. And when we think about classroom and conference rooms, the question kind of comes to mind, well, what is a classroom? What is a conference room? And as I travel around and talk to different dealers, the concept changes, and a lot of times it's typical what we normally think. It's a regular classroom in a high school or a university, but oftentimes it's more than that. And the same thing with the conference room. And so today, I want to touch on a couple of different solutions, looking at some of the common ones that you see and some of the ones that aren't so common that we see out there where these Atlona solutions are a great fit for. So these are places like high schools, like you see in the picture there. We'll take a look at universities and the kind of solutions we have there. And how about hospitals? That's one that a lot of our dealers work with and a lot of other dealers forget. But inside of hospitals, you've got medical training facilities, you get nurse training facilities, and then just regular meeting spaces. Same thing goes with facilities like police and fire department and training for those municipalities. Stadiums, sports teams is another one, film study rooms, a real big, especially around college campuses as you're coming to this time of year. And then, of course, regular old commercial offices like we see every day, and a whole lot more. So we'll take a look at some of these different solutions here as we get into the presentation today. And getting started, let's go ahead and start with something basic. I've got a single display classroom slide up here. And if you look at the picture on the slide, down in the front of the auditorium here, you've got a teacher station, a podium, if you will, where you'll talk from. You've got a computer, document camera, and I got a single display up on the ceiling. And it probably goes without saying, in an environment like this, I'm also going to want to consider some kind of scaling in this environment too. That way I can, the presenter is in whatever media they bring in, whether it's a laptop or even a wireless device. BYOT, bring your own technology, as we see that trend really beginning to emerge now. So we're looking at single and multiple input sources, definitely covering HDMI and VGA. And we're looking for a solution that's simple to operate, something that's easy on, easy off, because the presenter may change coming in and out. So we want a system that's really easy for someone to operate. And then we want to definitely make sure we include some audio in the room and mic input as well. So we'll look at some solutions that encompass all of these pieces. So here are two examples, and the image on the left side of your screen here is from a university football team, and this is their film study room. So this is a training room, it's a classroom. Yes, the football team uses it, but this is where all the players sit down when they're not out on the field, and they go through film, and they look at it on the screen there, and you can see there's an equipment rack right in the front of the room, and at this equipment rack we're going to have dedicated media pieces there. We have some mobile pieces that we want to walk up and play with. We might want to interface even some wireless pieces. We're probably going to have some kind of connection plates there on the front wall as well. And then over on the picture on the right-hand side, here we have a police station. We've got a police officer here giving a course. He's got a rack of equipment behind him there. Most likely has a laptop on the podium there that he's presenting with. He's got a nice display hanging up on the wall behind him. So it's another kind of classroom, another kind of training facility. And we're going to want to talk about how do we come up with a solution for this kind of application as well. So starting with the basic, we offer a product at Atlona called our HDVS family. This is an extender product, so it has a transmitter and a receiver, and we're sending signals over category cable using the HDBaseT communication protocol. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is the transmitter side. These are the two interface plates. This is where the presenter will plug in into a system like this. So you've got nice, easy-to-use boxes here, a wall plate in the box version with LED indicator lights on here. You got HDMI inputs and dual HDMI on the box version of this device. We have a VGA input to accommodate our analog style sources, as well as analog audio in. We have nice, easy-to-use control buttons on here, so if we want to turn a system on, turn a system off, change inputs, we can do that really easily right from the device. You've even got power, ability to update firmware, and the HDBaseT connection right on here. Some of these you won't see because you're not seeing the back side of the wall plate, but you're seeing the back side of the box version. Now, this image on the screen, this is the receiver. So this is the other half of the solution. You saw the transmitter. Here's the receiver. The receiver has HDMI to go out to your display, whether it be a projector or a TV. And this receiver is going to be located at the display, either mounted behind the flat panel or up in the ceiling by the projector. You will power this, so you want to plug this in. And if we're using the wall plate version of the transmitter, what we saw on the last slide, this guy will send power over the category cable back to the wall plate and power it for you. That's called POCC, power over category cable. You have audio de-embedding built into this box, so we can break audio out, send that right to an amplifier, and power a pair of speakers in the room. We have RS-232 control built into this. You have a nice, easy-to-use LED lights on there. Notice the menu buttons on this. Why would we put menu buttons on a receiver? Because this receiver has a scaler built into it also, which is real important in the solution here. So when the presenter walks into the room and they're carrying their laptop, maybe one presenter comes in and they're showing a 720p or a 4:3 output on resolution on their laptop. Next presenter comes in, he's got 1080p. But the display is always configured for one resolution. Let's say the display is WXGA 1920 by 1200. Now each time a presenter walks in, their image is going to look funny on the screen because they've all got different resolutions. But if you use this receiver in the extender series here, the HDVS-RX with the scaler built in, it will take whichever resolution the presenter has and always scale it to match the display inside the room. So it always looks perfect every time, and the presenter's not fumbling around trying to figure out how to change the settings on their display to match the display in the room. There's the category cable. That's what plugs in and connects back to the transmitter plate. I have a USB for firmware update and my power port on there as well. I've also included in the presentation here our PA100G2. This is an amplifier. This pairs real nice with this HDVS solution. Back on the last slide on the receiver, you saw the audio de-embedding, the audio output there. We take that right up here into the 40-watt amplifier that you see on the screen. And you can also run audio direct into this. You've got mic inputs on here. You've got left-right analog audio, 3.5 millimeter in. You have IR and RS-232 control built into this. Your audio output on there. You can even loop several of these together if you need more than just a pair of speakers in a room. So this is a really inexpensive but functional, easy-to-use amplifier that pairs great with the little transmitter receiver pair, and is great for a simple training room or a classroom conference room scenario. So the image on the screen now, this is a line drawing of the system put together. So on the left, you've got the box version of the transmitter, and you can see I've got a laptop connecting in via HDMI. I'm also showing a laptop going in VGA, and I've even got a document camera there, because if this is a classroom, maybe we've got a permanent document camera up front at the teaching station so we can show documents to the class. Then you see my category cable connecting up to 230 feet, because we're using the HDBaseT protocol, so we can go up to 230 feet of distance from the extender to the transmitter to the receiver. And then there at the receiver, we're breaking out video via HDMI to my projector and audio to my little 40-watt amp with a pair of speakers connected to it. And here you're seeing the wall plate version now as well. So you have both options. And let me give you one more really cool fact about this HDVS family here. You can program this such that it kind of works automatic for the presenter. So in other words, when a presenter walks in with their laptop and they plug into the wall plate here, the receiver on the other end lights up and says, hey, I just received a live signal. At that point, it fires off a command to the display, it turns on. So the presenter walks in the room, everything's turned off, they simply take out their laptop, plug in, the whole thing turns on. They do the presentation, and when they're all done, they unplug, and the whole thing turns off. So it's a very, very easy to use system for the clients, for the operator inside the room. And then for the installer, it's a real simple piece to install, very little of managing your own phone category cable between the transmitter and the receiver. So let's take a look at how this works inside a classroom. So here's my classroom. You see at the front there I've got a teaching desk, a podium. You see a picture of my wall plate transmitter there. So when you plug into that, signal goes up top to the receiver, goes into the projector, and boom, I got an image up there on the screen. When audio kicks in, audio plays out to the amplifier and to the speakers, and boom, you're working in the system. So there's how it works, really easy, nice solution. And pricing on this, extremely affordable. I've shown on here the transmitter with the scaling receiver. You got the amplifier, and for just over $1,000, you've got a complete system that's really fully automated, easy to install, easy for your customer to use, and comes with a 10-year warranty. All right, so a couple of additional advantages, just to highlight what I talked about here. You get the POCC, which is power over category cable, from the receiver back to the wall plate. You get the two options because you have the wall plate and you've got the receiver box. You get the easy to set up UV software. So again, it's real simple for an installer to turn this thing on and make it work. Some RS-232 codes and you're done. You get the auto switch functionality, which means when I've got more than one device plugged in, say a laptop and a document camera, I can auto switch between the two to whichever one is live. You get the nice single button for power. You've also got the option for auto on when you receive the live signal. And scaling is built into the receiver for both ports. So it's a win-win here, a great price, a lot of features. That's the HDVS family of products. Now, just to expand that a little bit further, the great folks at BTX have come back with some amazing products to augment the HDVS family of products with these really great cosmetic wall plates. So you can get them in a couple of different colors. You've got black, brushed aluminum, clear, white. They look great, and when you order this from BTX, you get the plate and the transmitter extender here all in one. And Kim, since you're on the line, did you want to add any additional information on that right there? I'm on that slide.
Sure. Please be aware that these are off-the-shelf solutions for the HDVS, but we do all kinds of custom metal work. So if there are connectors that you'd like to have on, a different plate size that you'd like, floor boxes, whatever it is that you'd like, please reach out to us and we can certainly help you with the design. We have a free software that will also help with that. But we're here, sky's the limit, so anything that you might need, please let us know.
Yeah, and then there on the screen now is a picture of the floor box with one of those custom plates on there. They work great. Here's another version inside of another type of a floor box, just to give you some variation. Okay, now let's take it to another level. So we saw a real simple solution. How about when the application starts to get a bit more complicated, a bit more busy, right? We add more sources and more displays into it. So you see the image on the left. Here's my standard auditorium. Now I've gone to a room where I've got two displays, probably a rack of equipment now, so it's more than just the presenter plugging in. I've got a number of different devices I want to show, and I got multiple different screens up here that we want to be able to show as well. Now the image on the right, This is more of your typical training room, what you might see in a corporate solution somewhere. You walk in, you've got a nice podium up the front with a number of different input sources on it, dual screens in here as well. So let's take a look at a scenario for this kind of application. And for this, we typically use a product that's it's a switcher scaler, but it's a bit more robust. It's called our AT-LINE-PRO5 Gen 2 series. And this product, when you look at the bottom of this here, starting at the left, in the purple square, we've got dual HDMI outputs on this, so we can run 2 monitors off this right at the same time. Beside that, in the yellow box, you've got 4 HDMI inputs, then a DVI input, 2 VGA inputs, and a whole suite of analog inputs on this as well. And at the top, in the blue box, you see the scaling menu there. We can scale any resolution up to 1920 by 1200. So we've got a box here now that does all of our switching, all of our scaling, lets us accommodate a number of different devices, and we can connect 2 monitors to it. Here's what it looks like in a line drawing. There at the bottom, we've got all my sources. You see the AT-LINE-PRO5 there in the center. We're connecting into that. And then beside that, I've got my control system running right in. So over RS-232, we're controlling this. And then look at the outputs. I'm going out to that PA100G2 40-watt amplifier for a pair of speakers, so I've got audio in the room. And then my 2 outputs. Notice I've got 1 HDMI output going to a flat panel display, and I've got the other HDMI output going up to a projector. And in this case, I'm going to assume that projector is up in the ceiling, and it's located further away. And if we're talking about HDMI outputs here, HDMI cables, we're going to max HDMI out around 30 to 40 feet. Beyond that, we're looking at active HDMI cables and potentially flaky issues and expensive solutions. So at this point, we like to switch over to HDBaseT. And you see on this projector, I'm coming out HDMI, I'm going into a transmitter-receiver pair, which, depending on which pair you select, you could go up to 328 feet or 100 meters in distance up to that projector, to the receiver, and break that back out to HDMI, plug into the projector, and you're ready to go. So you've got a couple of options for the output there. So let's take a look at that now live inside of another solution. Here I've got a conference room slash banquet room where I might have a speaker, a bunch of tables in here. Notice at the front room I've got 2 displays on the wall up there. Then down here in the center I've got my AT-LINE-PRO5. I'm breaking audio out to my amplifier with a pair of speakers in the ceiling. And if I wanted more than just the 2 speakers, I could break this, I could loop those amplifiers together for a couple of them, or I can take it out to a separate larger amplified system if I want. And then down at the bottom I've got my sources coming in, a PC, a Blu-ray player. And if that's located at an equipment rack over at the side, I could still have a transmitter located up in the front of the room where the presenter could plug their laptop into and then transmit over category cable using the HDBaseT extenders to run an input into this device as well. So now we're getting into the ability to control a larger solution, a lot of functionality. Let's take a look at the pricing on this. The AT-LINE-PRO5 itself is under $1,200. And then I've added in there a transmitter receiver pair so we could cover a long distance there, either on the input or the output. And then the amplifier. So for just over $1,700, you've got a complete solution that fits a much larger space now and allows you to do dual output, video output as well.
Ken, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, absolutely.
So power over category cable, how is that in relation to power over Ethernet? What are the differences?
Yeah.
Are they the same?
They're actually the same concept, different implementation, if you will. So there's lots of different styles of sending power over category cable. We call it POCC. Some call it PoE. Others call it. There's about 4 or 5 other names. There's several of them you run into out there. And the reason that is, each manufacturer right now transmits power using their own protocol, even though it's all over the HDBaseT communication standard. Probably when we go to HDBaseT 2.0, that may change, and I think all the manufacturers are going to need to standardize on one power format. But for right now, our power formats are different. And what that means to our integrators is if you're mixing brands, for example, if something already is existing and you want to buy Atlona and bring it into the job site, and another brand already exists, those two generally will talk to each other. You can transmit audio, video, and without an issue, but they wouldn't necessarily talk over the power protocol. So in other words, the Atlona brand couldn't power another brand's receiver. So at this point, power is unique to the manufacturer.
Great. Thank you
That's how that works right now.
for clearing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, a good question. All right, so here's the advantage when we're talking about using the Line-Pro5 series. Cost-effective, easy setup. You have full control of IR and RS-232. Just like before, we get 10-year warranty on all of our products. We support digital and analog signals. You have dual mirrored HDMI outputs on this, along with the audio de-embedding. So another super solution for a larger application. Now let's take it another step further. Now take a look at the image I've got here on the left. Now we've gone to a mega classroom, right? We've got a bigger auditorium. I've got lots of sources probably coming in here. And now I'm not just going to one or two displays. I'm going to multiple displays. Notice I've got the big projector at the front of the room. And I've got several flat panels hanging from the ceiling down close so the students everywhere can see what's going on. And let's say sometimes we're going to want to show different images. Maybe those aren't all the same. So how do we create a solution for this application? And likewise, the image on the left, now we've got that medical training center like I mentioned earlier with the hospital. How do we handle nurse training, doctor training? What happens if we've got multiple different videos we want to see, multiple sources, maybe even doing some reporting? So this kind of an application we want to address with a matrix switch solution, because the matrix switch is going to allow us to have multiple different inputs and send multiple different outputs to different screens in any combination that we want to. So what we're looking at here is our Pro 3 HD series of matrix switchers, and on this screen here we're looking at the 44M and the 66M, which is a 4-input, 4-output matrix switch and a 6-input, 6-output matrix switch. And these inputs are all HDMI, and the outputs are all HDBaseT, meaning we're sending the output over a category cable up to distances of 230 feet or 70 meters to our display. So we'll look at a line drawing, how this lays out. You see I've got my 6x6 matrix there in the middle, a control system connected to it. Then down below, here are my multiple different source devices. Some of these may be located in the equipment rack along with the matrix, like a Blu-ray player, a media player, a permanent PC. Then I may also want to input from a podium across the room, in which case I may use one of those HDVS transmitters which we saw earlier, send that to a receiver, and then that receiver will break the HDBaseT back into HDMI, and I'll feed that into the input on this matrix switch right here, which I might do for a document camera or a laptop. And then above the matrix switch there, now you've got my outputs. Notice I'm going category cable straight out of the matrix up to each of the displays. Now in this case, those 5 flat panel displays along the top, we're going to assume these are not HDBaseT ready displays, so we need a receiver there to receive the HDBaseT signal, break that into HDMI, and feed it into the TV. And then on the far left, I've got a projector, my big display in the center at the front of the room. Now notice just underneath that projector, I've got the HDVS-RX. This is the receiver we saw just a few slides ago that had the scaler built into it. And the reason we put this here is because on our nice big display at the front of the room, we want to make sure that each time we're showing an image, we're maximizing the resolution of that projector, that display, and we're also maximizing the aspect ratio of the screen that's installed in the room. So we're going to use a scaler. This way, whatever output my source is putting out, and then goes through my matrix switcher up to the projector, gets scaled just before it goes into the projector and matches that display resolution each time. So take a look at how we break this down in price. You've got the 6x6 matrix there across the top. I've included 6 of the receivers below that for each of the displays. So for just over $6,000, you now have a solution for one of those large multi-format or multi-source, multi-display education applications. All right, now let's shift gears and take a look at the digital conference room. We looked at a bunch of classroom solutions. So here in the conference room, I've got 2 images on the screen. The first one here, we got kind of more of a typical conference room, a big table in the middle. We've probably got some access panels built into that table where a presenter might plug in their laptop to feed into the system. Notice I've got a projector and a nice big display at the front of the room. In this case, I've also got a flat panel on the side wall for extra visibility. So I'm looking for a solution that's going to give me 2 outputs here. And this is very typical of what we're seeing in conference rooms today. Then the image on the right, now this is kind of a newer, less conventional style conference room. I've got more individual seating locations here. Probably got something like a floor box built in where someone can connect an HDMI cable from the laptop right down to the floor box to feed into the system. I've got dual displays on the wall, and notice in between those displays there's a camera. We're doing video conferencing. So let's look at a solution where we can include some of this with multiple display and video conferencing built in. So for this type of application, Atlona developed a new product called the CLSO-612. And CLSO stands for Classroom Small Office. And this is a scalar switcher that was designed for classrooms and for conference rooms specifically. It works great for both these applications. So let's take a look at some of the features on this guy. If we flip it around and look at the back here, on this scalar switcher, located in the big yellow rectangle I've got highlighted there, we're looking at the inputs that are available on the back of this device. Notice that the inputs number 1 and 2 are both HDMI. So if this is sitting in my equipment rack, and I've got 2 HDMI devices there, let's say maybe a permanent PC and a Blu-ray player or a media player of some sort, we can feed them straight in. Then inputs 3 and 4, take a look closely at these. They are HDBaseT inputs. They look like RJ45 or Ethernet jacks. These are for the HDBaseT input. That means at my conference room table or my podium or my floor box, I can use one of those input plates that we saw earlier on the HDVS slides, whether it be just HDMI or one of the HDVS with the HDMI VGA combined inputs. We can take one of those inputs and run them straight back over category cable directly into this switcher scaler without the need for a receiver anymore. Now, this CLSO out these HDBaseT ports send power back as well. So if I'm using one of those HDVS wall plate versions, whether it's in the wall or a table or a floor box, we're sending power over category cable. So that's the only cable that needs to go to that box. So it makes the installation really easy. Then beside that, in inputs 5 and 6, I've got my multifunction analog ports. So I can plug VGA directly into here, or you can use a dongle, a breakout dongle, and that would allow you to connect component, S-video, or composite straight into these as well. So a lot of choices here. So now let's take a look at the video output on this box. I've got it highlighted in green down here. You'll notice right away it's a dual output scalar switcher. I've got 2 outputs there, an HDMI and an HDBaseT output. Now these outputs are identical, meaning they're both going to put out the same image. And because this is a scalar, we can scale the resolution. They're both going to output the same scaled image as well. So they're tied together, but you have 2 outputs. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but this is a 4K scaler that's built into this box, which means I can take any resolution in, and I can upscale it to 4K and send it out to my display. Likewise, I can take a 4K signal in, and I can downscale the 4K, say to 720p or 1080p to match my display in the room. This is the only scaler on the market today that scales 4K both up and down, and it costs less than similarly, priced scalar switchers out there. So this is a really great solution. I want to make sure we focus on all the really great features on this box here. Now, as for audio, so we got microphone, mic line in inputs directly on the back of this right here. So we can take the mic straight in. This supports balance, line, or mic level sources. You've even got 48-volt phantom power on this, which means, let's say you've got a podium with a gooseneck style microphone in it, something that requires some power. If that's connected back into this CLSO, this will power that microphone, so no additional cabling or power sources are needed there as well. You've got balanced audio in and out, which means I can take my audio in from an analog source, embed it, or I can take my audio in on the HDMI or the HDBaseT and then de-embed it, and I can send my audio out to an amplifier, maybe the little 40-watt amplifier that we looked at earlier, the PA100G2, or even to a separate larger audio system if you have that in your job. So let's look at a couple of solutions and how this lays out. So the drawing I've got on the screen now, this is a conference room solution. And notice in the upper left corner of this drawing in that gray box labeled teleconference, what do you see there? I've got a video conference camera right there, which means at the front of the room I've got a video conference camera. Right next to that I've got a little wall plate, an HDMI wall plate there, so I can feed my camera straight into this wall plate. Now I can go category cable up to 230 feet or 70 meters from that wall plate all the way back to my equipment rack, the CLSO, and go straight into that HDBaseT port, and I've got my camera feeding into the system now. Now beside that, in the upper right corner of the drawing, in the gray box labeled conference table, in my conference table now I've got one of these HDVS boxes that we saw earlier with the dual HDMI and then VGA input on that. So when my presenters are sitting around the table, anyone can grab an HDMI cable or VGA cable, plug in, then their signal's going out, HDBaseT from that box up to 230 feet or 70 meters, all the way to the equipment rack, into the CLSO, into that next HDBaseT port. So that one single port is now enabling multiple laptops on that table to come into one port. So really expanding functionality here. Then down inside the rack, I've got some other devices, maybe a wireless device, a VCR Blu-ray player, a PC. And then notice on my outputs now, the orange arrow coming down to a local monitor. That could be a local monitor in the equipment rack. That could be a monitor on the wall, like the first image I showed you at the beginning of this section here. And then out the HDBaseT port, the green arrow coming out, that's going out to the projector. And this projector in the ceiling here is not an HDBaseT ready projector. So I'm going to use a receiver, and you're seeing the wall plate version there of the receiver, from HDBaseT in, and the CLSO is providing power to that wall plate, so it does not need to be powered independently. And then that wall plate's breaking out the HDBaseT to HDMI and going right into the projector. And I've also included the audio amplifier here. So now in the upper right corner of the window, here's our solution package. I've got the CLSO. I've included the transmitter for the teleconference and for the conference table. I've included the audio amplifier and the receiver that goes up in the ceiling by the projector. So for a package total of just over $3 grand, you've got a complete system that fits a conference room, incorporates video conferencing as well, all in one solution, real easy to use, nice graphical interface built into it, and really easy to operate for your customers, and it interfaces with any control system out there. So if you've got leading brands, Crestron, Extron, Control4, Advantage, RTI, Universal Remote Control, we're going to interface with any of those products out there, and they'll be able to control this without issue. Now let's take a look at this same product if we were to use it in a classroom scenario. Now notice in the upper left-hand corner, instead of having, I'm sorry, was there a question? Yeah.
We have some questions. First of all, I think your phone keeps buzzing every now and then. Maybe you might want to kind of move it off to the side or turn off the vibrate, like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have it off. Okay.
Okay. So I have a question about K through 12. Is this a common application for K through 12? Is it easy for the teacher to use? Is it easy for the installer to install?
Yeah, so K through 12, now you're talking about the CLSO that we're on right now?
Correct.
Yeah, this is a very common product for the K through 12 market. It fits really well. A lot of times with K through 12, these classrooms aren't quite as sophisticated, right? They don't necessarily always have an equipment rack over on the side with lots of sources. What K through 12 often has is a little shelf on the side of the room with a box sitting on it, and then some kind of a smart board at the front of the room, or maybe a projector in the ceiling. So where you would use this now, this might be the little scalar switcher that sits over on the side of the room on a shelf. And the teacher has a microphone. It could be wireless. Sometimes they wear these around their neck. That would feed right back into this system right here. And this has dual display outputs, which means the teacher could take a flat panel output, have that right at her desk, and have a local display right there. So she sort of has it as a confidence monitor. And then the other output, the HDBaseT, can go right up to the projector in the ceiling, which still could be used effectively with the smart board that's on the screen. And then a lot of times what you'll see in some of these rooms is an additional input plate that's not just that's either at the teacher's desk or maybe at the front of the room where someone can plug in another source. Maybe it's a document camera, maybe it's a laptop. And that would be what you see on the screen right now, the HDVS wall plate, which I might just put in a wall or a floor box somewhere. Maybe it gets used more often than not, maybe it doesn't. It's there as an extra input, though, feeds right back into the system, and it ties into everything the teacher is already doing in the room. So it stays relatively affordable, but it allows the teacher a bit more functionality in that she can have a few extra devices tied in and have scaling built into it. So a lot of times in these rooms, too, ease of operations comes down to resolution. Some of these rooms in K through 12, because they tend to work on a tighter budget, they get resolutions that are usually a little lower than what we see in some of the newer devices that are out today. So with the CLSO, you get the scaler built into there. So regardless of which device they plug in this room, it's always going to scale to match the display, whether that's up or down. So it makes it real easy for the person in the room to operate, even if they're not real techy, because it's always scaling the output for them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Were there any other questions on that, or should I go back here?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and move forward with the presentation.
Great. All right, so we're back on the classroom slide here. We talked about from a conference room standpoint. So in the upper left corner of this drawing, and this might be more typical rather than K-12, but maybe in an auditorium or a higher education facility, because I say lectern on the upper left of this image here. And oftentimes there's a podium or a lectern where a presenter walks in, and we'll have an HDVS wall plate right there. Now, the other thing that happens a lot of times is a podium in an auditorium or even in a classroom isn't there 100% of the time. It gets rolled out when there's an event. It gets put back away in the closet when there's not an event. So oftentimes we'll see one of the floor box units used here. And then those BTX floor box custom plates we saw earlier are a great option because you can mount those right in. When the podium's not there, you close the little door on the floor. Everything's great. And then when you want to do the presentation, you wheel the podium out, open up the door on the floor box, you plug in, and you're ready to go. And then in the upper right corner on the gray box there where it says teacher's desk, we'll typically install one of the box versions of the HDVS transmitter at the teacher's desk where we'll have two HDMI live connections and a VGA connection. So there's always 3 live connections right there. One permanent for the desktop PC, one for something like a document camera, and then a third connection as a alternate solution in case someone has a laptop or a bring your own technology BYOT device that they want to plug in and use right there. Now those feed back over the category cable using the HDBaseT protocol directly into the CLSO, and I've still got all my other ports open back there. 2 HDMI and my VGA, or my analog ports rather, for any other kind of devices I might have in the room. Still have active my 2 video outputs, so I can go right out to a local monitor, I can go up to a projector, and one thing you notice in this drawing, the projector there is no HDBaseT receiver. That's because we're assuming a projector in this room has an HDBaseT port already built into it. And this goes back, touches a little bit on the question earlier that came about the POCC and power. So this projector, whichever brand it is, will have HDBaseT port directly built into it. I can connect that directly via category cable straight into the CLSO. No HDMI cables needed anywhere. It'll interface perfectly with that projector even though it's another brand. However, I'm not powering that projector. That projector is still going to plug into an outlet to receive its power, but it will receive its video signal directly out of the HDBaseT box. And then I've got the PA100G2 amplifier included in the drawing as well, so we have audio. And then in the upper right corner, we've got a breakout of pricing with the CLSO, the 2 transmitters, and the amplifier. And for just over $3,000, here's a complete classroom solution that's easy for the installer to put in and really easy for the instructor to operate and turn on and use the system.
Hey,
go back to that. Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Talk about the control system that you're showing.
Yes. So that's just a generic graphic we stuck in there to say you have control system interface here, and there's a couple ways to control. You can go ahead and use RST32 like you're typically used to doing. You've also got the ability to do IP control on this. There's a LAN jack right on the back of it. So if you're using IP in your system, you're ready to go. This device also has, if you will, a mini web server built into it. So it's going to serve out a web interface too. So if you're on a network, you can actually hit the CLSO from its IP address and control it just like that to the web page as well. And then when you're connected to a display, you've got the on-screen display viewing interface as well. So lots of ways to access the menu on this and control it. Really easy to get to. And of course, going back to the whole idea of control freedom, the CLSO, like the AT-LINE-PRO5 we saw earlier, we can interface this with any control system out there. Crestron, Extron, AMX, RTI, you name it, this will work directly with it. And in most cases, the modules are already written. You plug in and they're ready to go. All right, go back to the live example. So we have the CLSO in the classroom. this is over on the shelf on the side or in the equipment rack. We've also got the PA100G2 amplifier, so we got audio tied into the room. Here's the HDVS transmitter. We put that in the lectern up front, nice and easy for the teacher to have that always ready for her equipment. And then notice I've also got the HDVS transmitter wall plug located in the floor box down below, so we can roll a podium in and present live right from there. So talking about the advantage of using the CLSO, and there's a lot of them here, but you've got adjustable mic ducting, which I didn't even mention that when we were on the microphone, the audio slide. I said you have mic input. You've got mic ducting built into this box too. That means if there's audio going on, maybe there's a presentation playing and there's some audio playing through the speakers. If the teacher goes to the mic and begins to speak, the audio will fade out. Her voice will fade in. She'll talk. When she's done, the background audio will fade back up and in. So mic ducting is built in. I mentioned the ability to scale up and down to 4K resolution. You have balanced audio switching. It can be used with the dongle that allows us to use S-Video compositor component inputs as well. Works with any of our HDVS series transmitters. We looked at extensively on the input and the output. And you've got the mirrored outputs going to HDBaseT and HDMI that are scaled up to 4K resolution. So with that, we'll wrap up. We looked at a number of different solutions here, both conference room and classroom. We talked about simple stuff right from the HDVS with a single screen, using the AT-LINE-PRO5 to do multiple outputs, using the Matrix to do multiple displays with different video, and then using the CLSO as kind of our ultimate easy-to-use solution in a conference room or a classroom. And I'd open it up to some questions if we have any.
Sure, absolutely. So we have a question about the wall plate solution. Is there plans for there to be a wall plate that supports HD/SDI?
At this point, there is not in that wall plate. It's only HDMI and VGA. We do have some other devices. There are some third-party devices that do HD/SDI that will feed into our system if you're going to convert and come in HDMI. And then down the road, in the future from Atlona, you'll see some more options in the with using card-based inputs into matrix systems, and there will be opportunities to add other inputs, and HD/SDI and fiber could play into that one day. There's no announcements on that, and it wouldn't be this year, but there is some potential for that.
Great, thank you. Is the audio output of the CLSO fixed or variable?
So the CLSO output, it's variable. You have volume control built into the CLSO, and there's even a volume up and down and a mute button on the front panel of the CLSO, so that if it's local right there in the classroom or conference room and you can get to it, you've got buttons right in front of it, which make it really easy to control in case you don't have a fancy control system or a touch panel in your room to operate it.
Excellent. Let me add a question about the equipment being rack mountable. So do you want to, I mean, you went through, quite a few products. Do you want to just comment on the,
yes.
which boxes are rack mountable, which ones are not?
Yep. So the way it works, all the full-size boxes or standard boxes are built to the exact same size as racks are. They're all based on, I think it's 19 inches. And they all ship with rack ears. So if you need them, you have rack ears available, you can mount them right in the rack. If not, if you're using something like Mid-Atlantic or Raccess, they make shelves that fit right in there, because some of our modules are smaller, like some of the little outboard scalers. They're not a full width, and so those will fit onto a 1U shelf, and you can put those right into a rack also.
Great, thank you. And a couple of people asked about receiving the presentation afterward. Just so you know, we are recording this, and we will be sending out the link to the recorded version, so you will be able to go back and review. And if anybody would like to get the PowerPoint presentation, just shoot me off an email, kimr@btx.com.
Yeah, and I've gone ahead and put the Atlona training and sales support number and email up there as well. so feel free to reach out to us anytime also if you need any material.
Great. I am going to, just real quickly, I'm going to take back control for 1 second, just so people can go ahead and write down our contact information as well. Oops, might be nice if I didn't. There you go. Our website and phone number and email address. And I'd like to take this opportunity, Ken, to thank you very much for working with us again on another webinar, and thank everybody for spending the last hour with us. Again, we're always here for any to answer any questions or help with any project design, and we work very, very closely with Atlona. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everyone. Take care.